Are you all right if we proceed now? I feel like I'm a teacher, making sure that we go to the next page. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanine Rudick. I'm a councillor with the town of Vegreville and the chair of the Subdivision Appeal Board, and I welcome you here today, Monday, November 3rd, and we will call this meeting to order at 2:15 p.m. And thank you very much for those who are in attendance. Again, I am a councillor that will chair this independent committee, and to my right, we happen to have the 3M collective. We've got Mike, Mike, and Mike. So if you'd like to introduce yourselves, please.
There we go. Hopefully everybody can hear me. My name is Mike Kinderchuk, resident of Vegreville and newly appointed to the SDAB as of middle of October. There you go.
There we go. My name is Mike Cooper, resident of Vegreville. I've been on the appeal board for 7 years.
Mike Malenka. I'm a resident of the County of Minburn, but have property in Vegreville. I'm newly appointed to the board.
Thank you very much. At this time, I'll take a motion to adopt the minutes from the Development Appeal Board hearing that are enclosed in this addenda package for development application number 02-11-211-144 for lot 22, 23, and 24, block 8, plan 1743P. Can I have a motion to adopt the minutes as presented? Thank you. Mike Cooper has made that motion. All those in favor of the motion as presented? And that will be carried. Thank you. Moving on to the next portion of our hearing. The purpose of this hearing is to hear the Development Appeal Board hearing for development application number 24-06-25-UGW, lots 25, block 27, plan 772-2504. At this time, I'll need to just make sure that everybody that is in attendance is accepting of the members of this appeal board. So I'll look to the appellant and the claimant on both sides. Do you have any objections to those that are sitting at this table? Okay, seeing none, we'll have the acceptance of these board members for this hearing. I'll also get our staff to introduce themselves, if you don't mind.
I'm Tammy McLean. I am the clerk for the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board, and I will just sit and listen and be support for the panel.
And we'll go across the table. The way that we do these hearings usually, we usually sit at a smaller room and around a smaller table, so it's a little less formal, so I apologize. This feels a little bit more daunting and intimidating possibly, but we'll just make our way around, if that's okay. I'll go with you, please. Sorry, if you want to push on the button of the microphone, it's being recorded.
Okay, there you go. Hi, good afternoon. My name is Carol Sisiba. I am representing Nurtures.
Thank you very much, Carol.
My name is Kayla McCutcheon. I'm the Development Authority for the town of Vegreville.
Moving on.
Davin and Lisa Jagolic. We are homeowners in the cul-de-sac of the proposed development.
Okay, and just for the sake of clarity, I'll go over to this side as well. They don't have microphones, but we also have two other folks here. So if you want to speak loudly, I don't know if it'll carry on to the recording, but go ahead.
Jameson Brown, Communications, Marketing, Economic Development for the town of Vegreville.
Thank you very much. And for those of you that are sitting as members of the public, in general, an SDAB hearing, which we're having here today, the people that get to speak at a portion of the meeting would be those that have submitted letters beforehand. And usually we would determine a time limit. I think we'll all be reasonable here. So depending on how things proceed, my comfort level will diminish potentially as people get very expansive, but I think probably we're able to listen to those that have submitted letters and if there are any other comments. The process for this meeting here today, this appeal board, is we will go through a series of reports. So the order of the reports, we'll start with the Development Officer's report from Kayla McCutcheon, if you'd like to please present.
Is it still gonna be second? Okay, no. Okay, so, in June, we received a development permit application from Nurturers, who's the applicant. The application was for a change of occupancy from single-family dwelling to a group home facility. The subject land being at 4517 57A Avenue, Lot 25, Block 27, Plan 7722504. So the district is single detached residential district, R1. So when we receive applications, we fall back on our land use bylaw to approve them. The purpose of a land use bylaw, just to kind of bring everyone up to date, is to regulate and control the use and development of land and buildings within the municipality to achieve the orderly and economic development of land. The Development Authority, as per section 3.7, decision process and reapplication, the Development Authority officers shall receive and review all applications for a development permit, refer to council for its considerations and decisions on all applications for a development permit in the direct control district unless otherwise provided in this bylaw, and consider and decide on all other applications for a development permit. As per the town's land use bylaw, the Development Authority has the authority to review, evaluate, and approve or deny discretionary use development permit applications. The Development Authority considers compatibility with surrounding land uses, impacts on infrastructure, traffic, parking, noise, etc., align with statutory plans, for example, our municipal development plan, any other relevant planning rationale or considerations. So a good thing to keep in mind is discretionary uses are not automatically permitted, even if listed in this bylaw. Planning and Development has the authority to refuse an application if the Development Authority finds the proposed use inappropriate for the site or context. So reviewing the application, like going through our land use bylaw page by page kind of thing, and we have checklists that we follow to how we approve it and how we don't approve it. So the development application received is for a change of occupancy of the residential property on the subject land. As per the definitions laid out in our land use bylaw, the request would be going from a permitted use as a single detached dwelling to a discretionary use as a group care facility. Section 1.495 in definitions of the land use bylaw, group care facility means a development which provides resident care services to individuals who may be handicapped, aged, or disabled and undergoing rehabilitation and are provided services to meet their needs. Group care facilities include supervised uses such as group homes, halfway houses, overnight staffed living facilities, resident schools, resident facilities, support homes, foster or boarding homes, and psychiatric care facilities, but not major institutional care facilities such as hospitals. While the definition in section 1.495 within the land use bylaw has a wide range of facilities, we confirmed with the developer that the proposed use would strictly be for children aged 0 to 18 years of age, and no more than 4 children and 2 support staff would reside in the home, which as per land use bylaw section 1.496 group home means a group care facility for less than 7 residents. So I kind of broke it down into, is the use group care facility allowed in single detached residential district, which it is discretionary, so it is allowed. Does the application meet the land use regulations for the R1 district? I have kind of broke it down into a chart for group homes. So regulation, facility for less than 7 individuals, the developer met the application, met that because the application's for less than 7, for 7 or less individuals, sorry. For the group care facility, the parking, a big thing was parking. That's always the number one thing that we kind of try and take care of. They meet the on-site parking requirements for within the group care facility. That's laid out in the land use bylaw in section 3.1. Additional information, so existing infrastructure, water, storm, and sanitaries. It meets all the town's requirements with a proposed use of 7 individuals in a home. It's no more than a single family dwelling home, me and my like it's no different. Site coverage, they met that. They're currently only using 24% of the allotted site coverage out of the 35% max. The site width, the primary building is within regulation. Conversion of single detached dwellings to other uses, met as it's listed as discretionary. Setback requirements, setback is within regulation, and then height requirements is all within regulation of the land use bylaw. So the conclusion on that portion of the land use bylaw, as the Development Authority Officer, I've reviewed the development permit application and determined that the proposed use, group care facility, is an appropriate and compatible use for the subject land. The proposed use is classified as discretionary use within the applicable land use district. Upon thorough review, I confirm that the application complies with all relevant development regulations and requirements set out in the land use bylaw. Accordingly, a development permit has been issued subject to the conditions outlined in the permit. So then after the land use bylaw, we go to our statutory plans. So I'm not gonna read it all out. I'm gonna highlight some ones out of our municipal development plan.
Kayla, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
I think it would be helpful for everybody, because it's a large package. Can you please identify where in the package your report is and your
Okay.
submission? Because it's not first thing.
Sorry.
Sorry, that's fine. I just want
So
to make
mine
sure
is
that.
the developer, the report of the Development Authority. Just this chunk here. It's kind of right behind. Let me grab my package.
If you want to just hold it up, just so that we
Yeah.
can see it up here as well, so we all know what you're looking at. Okay, so it is further on in the package, about halfway through, and at the top it says SDAB Hearing Report of Development Authority.
Oh, it'll be before these ones. Oh, maybe not, sorry.
Yep.
This one in here. No worries. So we're on page 3 of that one.
Thank you, and sorry to
Sorry.
stop you in the flow. I just thought I might want to make sure everybody's on the right page, quite literally. So just to recap, you're on page 3.
Page 3, yes.
Thank you.
So page 3, number 4. So the next one we went to was our statutory, the town's statutory plans. So reviewing the municipal development plan, the purpose of the town's municipal development plan is to provide clear direction to Vegreville's council and administration in guiding growth and development. The municipal development plan also informs residents, developers, and business owners of the direction for the town that the town has chosen for growth. The MDP, which is the municipal development plan, provides the foundation of the land use bylaw and other statutory plans. So the general goals set out in the MDP are maintain and improve the quality of life, ensure growth and change, respect social, economic, and environmental community matters, ensure growth and change are economically and environmentally sustainable, continue transparent collaborative communication among residents, stakeholders, developers in the town, maintain and improve strong intermunicipal and intergency. I can't even talk today, relationships, sorry. So following the MDP, the general goals, the residential, I've underlined some strong points that kind of refer back to the town's goals and how we want to grow and how we want everything to go. So Vegreville continues to enrich the quality of neighborhood by respecting the integrity of mature areas and encouraging proper infill that complements existing development. Residential policies on page 4. The proposed infill development is compatible with adjacent properties. Infrastructure capacity is not compromised, and the development is in keeping with the height, mass, scale, and appearance of the surrounding dwellings. Utility and infrastructure goal policies, in order to maximize the efficiency of existing infrastructure, infill development will be encouraged before the extension of services to new areas. Community well-being goals, enhance and maintain the physical, mental, and social well-being of community members, enhance the social infrastructure of Vegreville through improvements to the social support networks, education, employment, working conditions, social environments, physical environments, personal health practices and coping skills, healthy child development, healthy services, and culture. It is the goal of the community of Vegreville to sustain its unique cultural identity by honoring and supporting the history, celebrating the community diversity, and promoting a dynamic cultural community. So the conclusion, after reviewing the MDP, respecting the needs of all residents and fostering an inclusive community are essential principles that continue to support the goals and policies outlined in the town's municipal development plan. These values guide our planning decisions and help ensure that development contributes positively to the well-being and diversity of our community. Upon thorough review, I confirm that the application complies with all relevant goals and policies set out in the municipal development plan. Accordingly, a development permit has been issued. So then on to page 5. When we did send out the letters for the notice of decisions, we got some concerns back from residents. I just want to, one thing I do want to point out is that when a development permit is issued, if we do get, so I'm just going to read a little verbiage of the land use bylaw. If the development authority discovers that a decision made on a development permit application was either incorrect, that is not in compliance with the provisions and requirements of this bylaw, or based on information which was subsequently determined to be incorrect or misunderstood by the development authority, the development authority may rescind the development permit. In such a circumstance, the appeal period begins from the date that the applicant is advised that the development permit approval has been rescinded. So if we were to get concerns that I didn't approve something, maybe I missed something in the land use bylaw, I would have the authority to rescind it if they brought it to our attention. So main concerns that were brought up by adjacent residents in submitted letters: who is going to occupy the house and what kind of group home facility, halfway house, ex-convicts, disabled, seniors, youth, recovering addicts, mental illness were some of the ones that were brought up. While the land use bylaw definition of group care facility encompasses a broad range of group care facilities, the developer has confirmed that this particular residence will house youth aged 0 to 18 years of age, with a maximum of 4 children and 2 support staff living in the home at any given time. The applicant indicated that these children will be integrated into the community, attending school and participating in daily life like any other resident. The developer selected this property because of its proximity to amenities, park, the outdoor rink, the football field, soccer field, elementary school, and the residential character of the neighborhood, which they believe would provide a supportive environment for children and their staff. How would the application influence our children and families' behavioral issues of residents? While the development authority is responsible for overseeing land use, building regulations, and development standards, we do not have the authority to regulate personal behavior or lifestyle choices. Property value decrease was another concern brought up. I did contact Municipal Assessment Site Services Group, which at the time were our property assessors. They indicated from an assessment and appraisal standpoint, the presence of a group home operating out of a personal residence is not typically considered a value influencing factor. Increase in foot traffic. The survey subdivision plan for 57A Avenue was approved and registered with Alberta Land Titles in 1979, and unfortunately the town of Vegreville is aware of the traffic concerns residents have brought up within their letters and previous concerns that have been addressed over the years. In 2024, after receiving requests in 2023 from the residents along 57A Avenue, a crosswalk was added to the corner of 44A Street and 57A Avenue to make it a safer corner for all residents to cross and access the sidewalk that helps everyone access all local amenities within the neighborhood. Along with foot traffic, vehicle traffic was another concern. There is no back alley access within the cul-de-sac. During the early stages of approving the proposed development, we confirmed with the town's on-site parking regulations that they would be met. The proposed development has ample on-site parking, roughly 140 feet of existing driveway that leads to a detached double car in the back of the property and exceeds the requirements that are set out in the land use bylaw. Conclusion, all concerns that could potentially affect residents were thoroughly reviewed and considered by planning and development. The proposed group care facility will accommodate no more than 7 residents, which is consistent with the scale and residential character typically associated with a single detached dwelling. As such, the intensity of use is deemed compatible with surrounding residential development. Accordingly, a development permit had been issued. 6 was the notice. So the notice, when a development permit has been issued for discretionary use with a variance to the bylaw, the development authority shall post a notice of the decision on the property for which the application has been made, and/or mail a notice of decision to all owners of land within 60 meters of the subject site and to those other owners of land who, in the sole opinion of the Development Authority officer, may be affected, and/or publish a notice of decision in the newspaper circulating in the municipality. So we're on page 5. Oh, sorry, no, page 7. Are we on page 7? Yes. So after thorough review and consideration, Planning and Development approved the discretionary use application and issued notice of decision letters to residents within a 60-meter radius of the approved development site. All affected landowners received a notice of decision within the designated appeal period. While there was a procedural error in explaining how to file an appeal and the associated deadline, each affected landowner who had questions or concerns was provided with appropriate channels to submit an appeal before the deadline. There was also, like, with a procedural error with communication with a couple more residents. There was address that was incorrect in the system. They did get it before the end of the appeal period, and then there was already an appeal submitted. So as soon as an appeal is submitted, everything gets kind of put on hold until the SDAB hearing. So Planning and Development received a formal notice of appeal application on July 10th, 2025, 6 days before the appeal deadline on July 16th, 2025. As per the land use bylaw, section 3.9, section 3.92, where an appeal is made, a development permit shall not come into effect until the appeal has been determined and the permit has been confirmed or modified. Additionally, all inquiries and concerns raised by residents in the area were addressed professionally and thoroughly, with detailed responses based on the findings outlined above. Concerns regarding the potential demographics of future occupants were handled with respect and sensitivity. Planning and Development clarified that its mandate is to regulate land use, not to determine or influence who may occupy the land. Our conclusion, based on the entirety of this document, Planning and Development remains confident in its decision to approve the discretionary use of the group care facility within the town of Vegreville Single Detached Residential District, R1. And that is all I have. The schedules are just, in the back is the single, like the zoning, the letters, the addresses that the letters went out to within 60 meters. And then all the responses we got from people, from all the residents.
Thank you very much, Kayla. And just to clarify again, this was the presentation of the Development Officer's Report. There will be an opportunity to ask questions from this panel here after both sides of presentation continue. So we'll go to the appellant report, Davin and Lisa Jagalik. And if you can identify, will you be speaking to the submitted documentation that is in our agenda package?
Yes, it was the notice of appeal application and then the attached documents.
Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Thank you. I know that we all just read through this, but we would like to voice our statement, so I'm just going to read through that. So we wish to read aloud the letter that we submitted to Planning and Development Department after having received the town's notice of decision in June 2025. Just please note that it is written as though the development permit was still in review because the letter had some conflicting information as to whether or not it was already approved or if it was still being considered. We are writing to formally express our deep concerns regarding a proposal to operate a group home in the residential home neighboring our property at 4513 57A Avenue. The definition of a group home includes an array of complexities that residents could possess that could directly affect the day-to-day lives of ourselves and our family and the other homeowners in our neighborhood. Should the group home house adults, we would have major concerns with the appropriateness of the location, given that our cul-de-sac has primarily families with very young children. However, after a brief phone call with the Planning and Development Department on July 7th, 2025, we were assured that the proposed home would only house children aged 0 to 18. However, this too comes with difficulties that leave us concerned. Our neighborhood is comprised predominantly of families with young, impressionable children. It is a cohesive community where children frequently play together in front and backyards and along the street, often without direct supervision, as the environment has always been considered safe and family-orientated. While we understand and respect the need for supportive residential facilities for youth in need, the proposed proximity of this particular discretionary use raises several concerns for us. Number one being behavioral influence. Given the nature of such facilities where residents may be dealing with complex behavioral, emotional, or substance-related challenges, we are seriously concerned that their interactions with our own and neighboring children could result in exposure to inappropriate language, behaviors, or influences. The unpredictable nature of some residents' background could introduce risks that are difficult for us as neighbors to manage, especially in a setting where children often interact freely with each other without constant parental supervision. If we as a family or our children on their own are in a public space where the behavior of others is inappropriate or unacceptable, we can leave or remove ourselves from that environment. Having the possibility of these occurrences drastically increase right next door and in our own neighborhood that we've called home for 16 years is very, very different. Should the influence or presence of continually questionable, intimidating, or negative, it would directly affect the extent to which our family could enjoy our very own backyard. We also worry that behaviors could be heard from within the confines of the group home's backyard, also preventing us from enjoying our own outdoor space. To give context, our children are 6, 8, and 10. Of the other 13 homes in the cul-de-sac, 6 of them have children ranging from 0 to 17. Our second primary concern is community compatibility. Our area was designed and developed for residential family living. The introduction of a transitional or rehabilitative facility alters the community dynamic and leaves us with serious reservations about the suitability in terms of infrastructure as well. Our cul-de-sac is narrow and already experiences very limited parking. In fact, it was acknowledged by the town of Vegreville in the June 2023 council and legislative meetings that our cul-de-sac subdivision was poorly designed given how narrow and having no sidewalks. Increased traffic from staff, service providers, and visitors to the home would create additional congestion and pose a hazard for our kids who often play outside or walk to and from other homes and amenities. As a result, the group home would limit and therefore unduly and materially interfere with the neighborhood's amenities of being able to utilize the roadway in the absence of sidewalks to ride bikes, visit with friends, or walk safely between houses, all of which are a daily part of life in our small neighborhood. Furthermore, the placement of a group home has the potential to deter prospective buyers of other properties in our neighborhood and affect future property values, which many of us have invested in our homes with long-term stability in mind. Among all the neighborhood communities in Vegreville, we believe ours to be one of the most peaceful and close-knit. Again, we fully understand the need for supportive, vulnerable youth, but we strongly feel that the lifestyle and day-to-day activities of the families here will be drastically changed with the addition of a group home. So we respectfully urge you to reconsider its location. This development would be better suited in a larger neighborhood where its residents may blend more seamlessly, serving both the needs of the residents and the surrounding community better. Now I just wish to read the statement that we made on the formal appeal application submitted by ourselves and on behalf of many of our neighbors. The proposed group home will negatively impact the enjoyment of our neighborhood by increasing the risk of influencing and/or exposing inappropriate, intimidating, or negative behavior on the existing young impressionable neighborhood children and introduces an unpredictable environment. The introduction of a group home will bring increased non-local foot and vehicle traffic, further increasing congestion and raising potential safety concerns as our cul-de-sac has no sidewalks and is abnormally narrow. Just a note that since we have submitted our appeal, we have confirmed that our cul-de-sac is one of the 2 most narrow streets in Vegreville at only 60 meters wide. 60 feet wide, sorry. As a result, the group home would unduly and materially interfere with the neighborhood's amenities of being able to use the roadway in the absence of sidewalks to ride bikes, visit with friends, or walk safely between houses. Research by the Canadian Real Estate Association and regional housing reports indicate that group homes placed in family neighborhoods can result in decreased property values, impacting the financial well-being of neighborhood residents. Reports by Statistics Canada find that group homes require emergency services at higher rates, which not only put strain on our local resources, emergency situations and vehicles have the potential to limit homeowner access. And again, just another note, on Halloween, our local firefighters were out supporting trick-or-treaters, and they pulled into our cul-de-sac and had to do a full 3-point turn in order to exit properly. And I will pass it to Davin now.
Thank you. Our entire neighborhood strongly feels that all of the previously mentioned points prove that a group home poses multiple negative nuances that have the potential to hinder the enjoyment of our individual homes and the tranquility of our quaint neighborhood. Outside of those main concerns, we also want to make the SDAB aware of the following procedural errors pertaining to this specific notice of decision. 1. Pursuant to section 3.94B of the town's land use bylaw, not all affected landowners within 60 meters of the subject site were notified of the decision. Because those affected landowners were not notified, they did not have the opportunity to appeal. This is a fundamental principle of procedural fairness and therefore is grounds for an appeal pursuant to section 685(2) of the Municipal Government Act. 2. Pursuant to section 3.95C of the town's land use bylaw, the notice of decision did not include any discretion or criteria for considering the application. As affected landowners, we're entitled to know what criteria was considered by the Development Authority when they deemed this discretionary use development appropriate for our neighborhood. The Municipal Government Act also governs this requirement pursuant to section 642C, subsection 6. 3. Pursuant to section 3.95D of the town's land use bylaw, the date of the issuance of the development permit was not specified in the notice of decision. This is a fundamental requirement so that affected landowners can ensure that the timeline stated in the notice of decision is accurate at 21 days following the decision of the development permit. 4. Pursuant to section 3.95E of the town's land use bylaw and section 685 1.1 of the Municipal Government Act, the notice of decision did not include any mention of submitting an appeal or how to submit an appeal to the appropriate appeal body. Instead, it stated where to send any comments or concerns regarding this proposed development, which was misleading and resulted in informal letters of concern being sent to the town when a formal appeal was the only possible next step. For every informal letter sent in, only then did the town respond with information on how to appeal and where to send the $500 fee. This only left the remaining days of the original 20-day timeline for appeals to be made. The next area that I'm referring to is the location of our neighborhood, with the subject lot being highlighted in yellow and the affected landowners being highlighted in red. So these red highlighted properties are those owners of land.
David, sorry, can I just stop you for a second? Can you just, are you referring to the map that's in your
Yes.
application? Okay, thank you.
So the highlighted areas of land that are in red there, those are the lands that fall within 60 meters of the subject site who may be affected by the proposed development. These affected landowners should have received a notice of decision pursuant to section 3.94B of the town's land use bylaw, and also should have received a notice of the SDAB hearing in accordance to section 4.22C of the town's land use bylaw. However, in our discussions with some of these landowners, some that fell within 60 meters did not receive these notifications, which were required pursuant to the land use bylaw. This is a fundamental principle of procedural fairness, and therefore this development permit should be denied or revoked. And the last document I'll be referring to is the letter we submitted on October 29th, 2025 as part of the package. In addition, we feel it's important to follow through with acknowledging the following concerns regarding the Notice of Development Appeal Board hearing we received on October 27th, 2025. 1. The Notice of Appeal Board hearing states that written submissions can be sent via email to ipd@vegreville.com. This is the same email used for all communications for ourselves and the Infrastructure Planning and Development, IPD, department since receiving our Notice of Decision in June 2025. 2. We inquired for additional information regarding the development permit application number 24-06-25-UGW, along with any documents or materials that were reviewed or considered in making the decision on this discretionary use application, which are public documents, to which we were informed would only become available within 30 minutes prior to the hearing. For the reasons stated below and those expressed in our previous statement, we respectfully submit that the process surrounding the approval and subsequent handling of this permit was procedurally flawed and compromised by conflicts of interest that undermine the independence of the appeal process. So these are some of the grounds for appeal. 1, lack of procedural independence between the Development Authority and Subdivision and Development Appeal Board, the SDAB. The SDAB is a quasi-judicial body that must operate independently and free from the influence of the original development authority. In this case, both the development permit application and the appeal submissions were directed to the same email address, ipd@vegreville.com, which one could reasonably assume is monitored by the Infrastructure Planning and Development, the IPD department, the very department that approved the permit under appeal. This arrangement creates a clear procedural overlap between the approving authority and the appeal body, undermining the integrity of the appeal process. A reasonable person would conclude that staff involved in issuing the development permit could access appeal materials and submissions contrary to principles of natural justice and administrative independence. 2, conflict of interest and lack of administrative separation. So all correspondence and submissions related to the SDAB appeals must be directed to an independent SDAB clerk or secretary who is not associated with the department responsible for the original decision. We've confirmed that the town's SDAB clerk also holds the position of planning and development assistant for the town. This dual role creates at least a perceived conflict of interest. An individual employed by the approving authority is simultaneously administering the appeal process. Such an arrangement erodes public confidence in the SDAB's independence and compromises procedural fairness. 3, failure to provide adequate access to relevant documents. Pursuant to Part 4.23A of the town's land use bylaw, the development permit application and all materials reviewed in its consideration must be made available for inspection prior to the hearing. We requested these materials in advance of the hearing to allow for meaningful participation and proper preparation. The town, through its Planning and Development Department, not the SDAB, advised that relevant materials would only be made available 30 minutes prior to the start of the hearing. Respectfully, providing only 30 minutes to review key documents constitutes a denial of procedural fairness. It prevents appellants and affected parties from adequately reviewing the evidence, preparing arguments, or seeking professional input. Despite a request for at least 24 hours notice, the town advised that senior management in the Land and Property Rights Tribunal, the LPRT, determined that 30 minutes was sufficient. Again, this further proves our point, highlighting a potential conflict of interest, questioning the fairness and independence of the SDAB process in the town. Further, we maintain that this time frame is unreasonable, arbitrary, and inconsistent with the principles of fair and transparent decision-making. 4, breach of procedural fairness and appearance of bias. The cumulative effects of the above issues, the shared email system, the dual role of staff, and the limited access to relevant information creates both a real and perceived lack of independence between the SDAB and the approving authority. Even if no actual bias exists, the appearance of bias is sufficient to compromise the validity of this process. Public confidence in the impartiality of the SDAB requires not only actual fairness, but also the appearance of fairness. The current structure fails to meet that standard. In conclusion, we respectfully urge the Subdivision and Development Appeal Board to consider the substantial concerns raised by ourselves and our neighbors regarding the adverse impacts this development may have on surrounding properties, the enjoyment of our community, increased safety risks, and additional strain on existing infrastructure. Furthermore, we have outlined numerous procedural and administrative errors associated with development permit number 24-06-25-UGW. Taken together, these factors present compelling grounds for the board to deny or revoke the permit in question. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So moving along through the agenda then, the next party that will make a presentation will be the applicant, Nurtures Incorporated, and I've got Joseph listed, but it'll be Carol that will be speaking today. You can go ahead. Do we have a document in the package that we'll be referring to, or you'll be an oral presentation?
We'll just be talking in presentation.
Thank you.
So we will address the concerns that were highlighted in the report, which was one of the main concerns that was brought up is who was going to occupy the house, or what kind of a group home facility is it going to be. It's not a halfway house. It is not a recovering addicts. It is not an ex-convicts. We're talking about children that are between the ages of 0 to 18, under 18. that have medical needs. It could be some of them, it's just, for instance, we have in one of our homes, it's a young girl, 13, who is diabetic, goes to school, plays in the park, goes swimming, accesses recreational activities, doesn't pose any threat to anyone. So the children that we're supporting are not children that are posing any risk to anyone. In fact, they are at risk of being targeted by other children in the neighborhood. So these are kids that are just like my own kids that I might have that are just being supported in a home. They don't have any behavioral needs or saying that I would say they're going to be bringing a risk to the children that are in that neighborhood. Those are not the kids that we have been supporting. So these are just children that are also accessing schools. Some of those kids are also going to school with some of the kids probably in the neighborhood. And the needs are varying. And we also determine the pairing of the kids. We don't put any kids in our homes that we feel are over and above the needs that can be met within a community setting. We do a thorough assessment of bringing kids that are easily managed within a community setting. And these are the same kids that are also needing to access the park. They're needing to ride their bikes in the neighborhood. They're needing to go trick-or-treating like any other kid. So for us, we feel that it's not a halfway house. It's not about bringing in ex-convicts. And it's mental health issues that varying. It could be just depression. They're depressed. It could be an issue of, I don't know, they're just isolating. They have no one. They have no friends. They have no one that they're able to hang out with. So from our perspective, the concerns that have been raised around the threat, maybe the underlying tone of a threat, that it feels that there might be a threat to the kids within the neighborhood, that is not inaccurate for us, because these kids are actually the ones that are at a higher risk of other children in the neighborhood targeting them. But they are not kids that are going out targeting where you'd be a threat. And most of the times, they're probably even scared to come outside because they don't feel they fit in. They don't feel they're included. They don't feel they're outsiders. So because of that, they might even choose to be isolating. And our staff, which is when we said we will be having 2 staff that we want to be able to have in the home, is those staff to be able to encourage those kids that it's okay to be outside. It's okay to go to the park. It's okay to ride your bike. You are normal. You are like anybody else. You are accepted and you are valued. So our task is to really be more inclusive and to support these children to feel valued and included, regardless of their circumstances that they don't have. And I do understand the worry about maybe opening up other, an increase in maybe having psychiatric facilities or any other facilities. This is, for us, we're just focusing on a basic, regular home, like my home for my own children that I would have, where the children can just live like a normal routine, where we want to have dinner, just a normal routine like anybody else would have those routines with their game. And in terms of how would the application influence our children or families, well, I would certainly hope that it would be inclusive. So I would certainly hope that the influence is both ways, that, the kids that are going to be in our home would be included. We can come outside and, I don't know, play a game of dodgeball when they're playing outside in the yard. I feel they can come. Some of our kids like gardening. And the house this particular house, we were quite impressed also with the ability to do gardening at the backyard. So we would certainly hope that the influence would be, our kids would be motivated to engage with the kids in the neighborhood and do some activities together. So in terms of the behavioral, it's certainly not going to be our kids in the home. You're not hearing them beating up any other kids. You're not hearing them, coming after, anybody or breaking in people's homes. That is not what we're supporting. We're just completely supporting kids, wanting kids to be included, to be a part of a community, to feel like they have a home. So the behaviors, I don't know. And I think about in my own neighborhood with my own kids, there are certainly other kids that are in, that will be in the neighborhood that naturally are going to influence each other. And who is to say it's because of the kids in the group home that are really influencing these ones? Certainly so far with what we've been doing, we have not found that to be the case. In fact, our kids have the ones that have been a target. And we have not found that their behaviors have been influencing negatively. In our other homes, we have kids that are, the young kids, they actually goes around and shovels the snows for the neighbors, or mows the lawn for the neighbors, or extending some supports to the neighbors in the neighborhood. So it has not been that case that we have found. And I cannot speak about the property value of decreasing or increasing the property value. That it's beyond our level of expertise to be able to speak to that. It is certainly it's not a home that is standing out and with a banner that says we are a group home here. So there is nothing that stands out other than the people that are inside. If you don't know, you wouldn't know that it's a group home. But so I don't know. I can't speak to the property value of that. An increase in traffic, again, I cannot speak to that because we are certainly supporting kids that we just have staff that are coming in the home. It's no different than if it's a home that is a two-parent home with two caregivers with two kids that are coming and going, visitors that come and go in the home. It will be no different. So I can't speak of the increase in traffic because we are not having tons of traffic that's coming in and out. So I wouldn't be able to comment to that. And I think the concerns of the whole community, sense of community, it is precisely what we are desiring for, to really have that sense of community for our kids that are coming. And what I really do want to emphasize is that the children that we are caring for, and I know that when people hear group home, you hear, people have a different visual of what a group home is. And I know that, the group home here, as it was read and defined, it's really a wide range of complexities that come with the definition of group home. But also with the process of having any group homes, certainly as someone who is a service provider, you have the ability, you pick and choose, right? When you get a referral of a child that is needing a placement, we determine, if it's a match for what we have in the home. We might find that it might be a home, we might end up with just kids that are 3 years old with medical needs. I don't know, right? But it is not a home where you are the image might be about you have I don't know, for lack of a better word, rowdy kids that are gonna be taking over the neighborhood and out of control and breaking into people's homes and yelling and screaming and cussing people out. That's certainly not what we have experienced. And that's not what we are aiming for. We are aiming at completely bringing in children into an environment where it's inclusive and they can thrive in the absence of being in the home with their own personal families. So a community is what we are aiming for. It's what we're hoping to have for the kids. So I can certainly say it is not about bringing in ex-convicts. It is not about bringing in kids that are, I don't know, in the gangs. That's not what we are. That's not what we are bringing in.
Thank you very much for your presentation. So the next portion would be the area of the SDAB appeal where we can have delegations. So we have a number of letters that were submitted. Is there anybody in the gallery that would like to either read their letter or provide their commentary? If you are interested, please raise your hand. You'll need to identify yourself, and we will need to find a way to be able to have you present. So if there's anybody else that would like, you don't need to move yet, Davin. We'll just wait, yeah. Thank you for being responsive. Is there anybody else that's in the gallery that is interested? So I'll recognize you if you don't mind just identifying yourself by name. Okay. Would you like to read your letter, Erica? I'll have, sorry. Yeah, I'll have you come to a microphone, so you, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. Thank you, Davin. And would you like to read the letter that you've submitted?
I could. We all have copies of each other's letters. We've all been able to see them, and with them being public documents, in the name of time, I don't think I necessarily would like to read the letter. Okay. What I'd like to bring up is that from our household's perspective, this isn't necessarily and completely about using the royal U for your development permit. It's for the fact that it's opening the door to other development permits for this area of town. As we've said multiple times, this is a ridiculously narrow street. I don't know if any of you have actually driven down it. It has trouble with emergency vehicles getting down in non-emergency times and during emergency times as well. It is extremely tight. There are no sidewalks, and it does create a concern for how much traffic could be going up and down these streets. And while we don't want to have a community that feels like it's non-inclusive or anything, and we do want to welcome everyone, being such a narrow street, having staff come up and down, potentially more and more medical services needing to be coming up and down if someone were to be medically fragile is definitely a concern, because it is going to cut off access to our street quite a bit. We bought our property because, again, same as these individuals, it is close to the parks, it is close to the rinks, it is close to other services, and that's what makes it so great and so appealing to young families. But we are just overly concerned about the fact that it is so narrow with the parking situation that's available on our street. And we really want to keep it available for individuals to be able to run and play freely. That was something that actually really attracted us to buying that property specifically, is how welcoming and nice the community is, and that you can just let your kids run and be part of it as well. So I just wanted to bring that up, only just, like I said, for a matter of time, instead of reading through the whole letter again. Really want to emphasize that part, that the traffic was a big concern, as well as once you open the door to one development permit, where's the next one, where's the next one, where's the next one, and we'd really like to keep this area, and again, speaking for our household, this area to be single family, single use dwelling type of area. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there others in the gallery that would like to make a comment? Thank you. Chair recognizes. If you could please identify yourself and you can come up to the microphone, that would be wonderful. Thank you, Joseph. If you don't mind moving to the microphone, that would be great.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Yeah, I just want to shed more light on a few things my colleague has already highlighted there. The last speaker made mention of traffic. Okay. The only question I will ask is, let's assume it's not even a group home that is coming in there. And let's assume I'm coming in there to live with my family, that is my wife, myself, and 5 other kids. Would that be a problem? No. The reason why I asked the question and I answered it is because this is what we're actually asking for is a home for these, vulnerable young ones in our midst. You'll be shocked that these kids are not far from any of us here. Most of the kids that we support are from Vegreville. And one thing we do is we are not your regular kind of group home. I know that there are a lot of negatives about group home, but we don't even want to use the word group home, but we are forced to use the word group home. If you see our facilities, the first thing that will come to your mind is not a group home. Even the kids that come to our homes, they would the first question they ask is, what is here? Then I'll ask them, what do you think it is? Right? So the traffic, if there's any traffic problem in this neighborhood, it is not going to be made worse or made better by the presence of the group home. That's what I want us to know. So it shouldn't be an issue at all. Because just like a question I asked, if I move into that particular property with my family, what would that be? My family is bigger than the group home. So, and I know nobody is going to contest it. Nobody in this room will contest it. The other thing that I want to also emphasize is this issue of what? Influence. Influence. My colleague has really done a good job on that. But our kids don't influence, like we said. They're very vulnerable. They're kids that need to be protected by the society and by every one of us. So if there's going to be a problem, our concern will be the influence of the kids in the community on these children. And that's why we look for a family-oriented neighborhood where these kids will thrive. Like my colleague mentioned, most of these kids are scared. They're scared of people like me and you. They're traumatized by people like me and you. The people that they so much, have so much, interest in, like they trusted, like parents. You'll be surprised. Parents, the people that they call mommy or daddy. These are the people that, have put them into a very precarious state, and that's what we're dealing with. So we're not dealing with gangs. We're not dealing with ex-convicts. But having to say that, if I want to go to the other extreme, I'm like, assuming that this facility or this particular property we are looking at is rented by an ex-convict, the person is already forgiven. What will anybody do? Right? That you are in the neighborhood. Let's say the person gets out of jail and then decides to buy the property. He's already served his terms, right? As a criminal, whatever, the court has released him, he's out of prison, and then he decides to buy this property. Is there anything any of us is going to be able to do? No, but that's not what we're doing. I want to take us to these both extremes so that when we are saying something out of emotion, that is understandable. All of us will have our emotions, right? I understand where the neighborhood, people in the neighborhood are coming from. Like the standard in most towns has been like, not in my neighborhood. Like in Edmonton, where we're coming from, that has been the order of the day, a couple of years back, like 5 years back or 6 years back. People like myself, I would say, yeah, I don't want this in my neighborhood because it's going to reduce the value of my property. That has been, the major thing that people, but, the city has moved on and nobody asked that kind of question again because the city is progressive. And I know that the town of Vegreville is a progressive town. So, and I know that very soon, this kind of meeting will not be held here. because when you become progressive, you become open, you become accommodating, and right, you'll be able to know that even the people you might call outsiders, they also have rights. And when we look at the human rights, you begin to look at the broader picture of how things should be. So I know there are a lot of sentiments in property. Like, don't get me wrong, the neighbors that I gathered to, kind of protest or kind of appeal this decision, they have cogent reason. But the thing is, when I'm reading through that, these reasons, you find out that a lot of things are fear, a lot of things are the truths that are kind of mutilated a little bit because of every other different mindset. But just to reassure everyone that what we are looking for and what we are after is not, we are coming from a neighborhood. Like, when we got this property, we were like, I can easily live in any of the homes, any of the facilities we have, easily, anytime. So it's not a matter of, spoilers for the community or for the neighborhood. But if you look at most of the program or policies of the government of Alberta concerning these children in care, the big thing is family unification. It's just a kind of a recurring emphasis. We don't want any child in our care to be very far from their families. That is one of our business model, no matter what. In short, one thing we do with placement officers is the first question we ask is about the child's family, because that's a huge one. It's no matter what. We want kids, we don't want to build institutions where kids are trapped because we know what it does to them. That is why we, look for. We are very particular. In terms of some people ask us, what's the business sense in coming to all the way to Vegreville to? I say yes, because what we've seen is because most of our kids are within this environment and surrounding town. So I find it really not the best for the kids if you pull them from small town and move them to big town. You're not doing them a lot of service. So if they're within family, within reach of their family, and within the proximity of where their natural terrain, they tend to grow and adapt, and we tend to see better results in such circumstances. So why I'm not minimizing the concerns of the neighborhood people, I just want to reassure them that it's the other way around. We are the ones that are really concerned that, did we really make? Are we sure that we're going to get, the best for these kids in this neighborhood? That's our major concern. Not that the kids will be a problem to the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph, for your presentation. Are there others in the gallery that wanted to address the chair? Okay, I'll just ask one more time. Are there any others that wish to address the chair that are in chambers? Okay. I will just note that there is a collection of letters that were in the agenda package, that we've all read them here. And those are part of the decision-making consideration as well. At this portion of the Subdivision Appeal Board hearing, we will move on to the board members' questions. And so I will direct the questions to the members of the public that are sitting to my right, to your left, the three mics. If you have any questions that you would like to direct through me to either the appellant, the applicant, or the development office.
So I have a question.
Mr. Malika?
Yeah, I have a question here on the staffing levels. So I'm assuming it's going to be a 12-hour shift, and there's 2 people on per shift. Is that correct or not correct?
So our shifts varies depending on the needs. So what we typically want is to minimize the number of staffing that is coming in and out. Because the more people you have staff coming in and out, it also doesn't create stability for the kids. So yes, a typical schedule would be a 12-hour shift. So say, I don't know, I'm just saying it's not that's what it is, but like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. One staff comes in and they stay there the whole time, and then the next one comes in, they sleep for the night. Well, not a sleep shift, but they are there for the night. Or a live-in model where we have somebody that stays in the home constantly, and then just one staff that come in and out. So in terms of then staffing, we are not having 5, 6 staff that are coming in and out, in and out, in and out throughout the day. But we prefer to have fewer staffing, which is in here we say 2 staff, preferably, that are just coming in for a 12-hour shift and they just stay there.
Okay,
It's
so
not stable for our kids to do too many people in and out.
so there would be like 4 vehicles that would
No.
come on shift change, because you have 2 people there that have vehicles, so 2 other people are now going to have to come to relieve those other people. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's answers my question.
Okay. Are there other questions from the board members?
I have none.
Okay, I will ask a few questions as chair. So I'm going to direct these questions to the Development Authority officer. So I want to, again, if you could please define discretionary use again for those assembled,
Okay.
as described, not just in the land use bylaw, but as provincially mandated, what discretionary use means.
Okay, I'm gonna read what the land use bylaw says right now. Sorry, Tanine. Of course. So discretionary use means the use of a land or a building provided for in this bylaw for which a development permit may be issued at the discretion of the development authority. So that's my discretion could be different than your discretion, but that's why we have this land use bylaw, to follow the rules. So a lot of this stuff, that like everything that why we approved it, it's pretty black and white. There's not really any gray areas. The bylaw has it laid out for us. And that's why we approved it, because it fits within all the criteria that we look for, which is infrastructure, the characteristics of the neighborhood, the roads, the streets, everything. We take all of that into consideration when we're approving a bylaw. Sorry, approving a development permit.
Okay, thank you. I'll just ask if there's any questions here to my right, just please draw my attention to it, because I've got a list of things that I'm going to ask.
Sure. I might
Sure.
have a follow-up question once you're done.
Okay.
Just for the Development Authority.
Sure. As for traffic, and maybe this would be you, Kayla, or this might go to Dale, I'd like to address the concerns about traffic flow in and out of the Crescent. And just for your consideration, those of you that are in the gallery, some of us are longtime residents and very familiar with the neighborhood, so we're familiar with the layout of the neighborhood, but I would like to address the layout of this particular cul-de-sac and the egress and entry into the
I'll let
area.
Dale speak on that. I do know, like within the past year, there was another discretionary use that went in the neighborhood, and the exact same concerns were brought up. That development just wasn't appealed. So it was the foot traffic, the traffic coming in and out, and that was also another issue within the same cul-de-sac.
Can you back that up? There was another discretionary use that was
Within the past year, and it's
Okay.
the same concerns, like with the foot traffic and the vehicle traffic. We all know that's an ongoing issue in that cul-de-sac, just because of the size of the street.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, they're absolutely correct. There's a few cul-de-sacs in our community that have narrow roads, and in the 70s and 80s, it was common to build them without a sidewalk. So it does have an effect on it. So with that, we looked strongly towards on-site parking to see, like the question that Mr. Mike Malanka had asked about how many vehicles at the shift change. The on-site parking is an easy 4 vehicles for sure in the driveway, plus the attached or the detached garage. So then we felt that there was not be adding to on-street parking, but because of the length and the width of the driveway that was there.
Okay, thank you. That was actually my next question, was the on-site parking. Again, some of us are very familiar with this particular residence, and the former residents, for example, would have had 5 drivers at various times with 5 vehicles. And again, what is the legislated requirement? What are the number of parking spaces that are required for an R1 single-family dwelling, please?
So for R1, it depends on, so for single-family residential, it depends on the like how many per dwelling for rooms. So like a multiple family dwelling, for 3 or more bedrooms, on-site parking is 2 per dwelling unit, 2 on-site parking. And then loading would be 1 per 10 dwelling units. So like you'd have 1 on the street, and then 3 or more bedrooms is 2 per dwelling unit. So you'd have to have 2 on-site parking, but then they would fall under the group care facility, which is hospitals and similar uses, which is the 1 per 100 meters squared of gross area, or 1 per 4 beds, whichever is greater. They surpass that with the length of the driveway and having the double car garage in the back.
Okay, do you have a question?
Yeah, just kind of just for clarification purposes for myself, there was a number of issues brought up with the procedural issues as far as timing is concerned. If you can just clarify that for me just a little bit more, so I got to
For sure.
clear my mind.
So these don't happen often.
Yeah.
So this was a good learning curve for our department for sure. There was procedural error in regards to the hearing, how you could appeal it was not on the letter. When people reached out, we then responded with the application for appeal and let them know that they had X amount of days to appeal it. I think the biggest thing would have been if an appellant would have came in after the fact, before it was appealed, like before the appeal deadline. I think then we would have, the whole thing would just have had to go stop it and then restart it. The exact same procedure would happen again. It would just be the letter, which is now modified, has all the details that need to be in there. It would have we just sort of restarted, and they would have had 21 days to appeal. But if we would have got it after the fact, but because we got it before like the timeline was the due date, like before the date that they had to get it in for, then it automatically just, the development permit goes on hold.
Okay, that satisfies. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. That actually is the next series of questions that I have. So there's been a reference by the appellant that landowners within 60 meters were not notified. Is that factual?
There was 4 that were not on the list to begin with. So where the appellant's measuring from is, we don't, proposed site, we take it from the middle of the proposed site of the lot, and then we measure out 60 meters. So it depends where you're measuring from as to where the 60 meters is. So the appellant's list to our list, I think it's 4 short, and it's just the difference where we measured from where they measured from.
Okay, and is the measurement standard that you're utilizing the standard that is usual for most?
The 60 meters for all discretionary, yeah. And every community is different with how far, I'm pretty sure the city of Edmonton is 30 meters, like it's very close. So every municipality has a different different size, like the meters. It doesn't have to be, it's not set out in the MGA that it has to be 60 meters. That's part of the land use bylaw.
Okay. I want to go back to the number 3 in the question of the appellant. It's on page 2. There's reference here to the date of the issuance of the development permit not being specified. Is that what you referred to when you answered in your first question or answer? Was the date specified?
The date of the letter was the date of issuance on the letter, on the notice of decision.
So there's a reference here to the date of the issuance of the development permit not being specified on the notice of decision.
Well, the date of issuance was the date of reference. It's not specifically written out in black and white. We've changed our letter drastically since this has all come out and about. But the date that it was issued is the date that is the date.
Okay, so it didn't explicitly say this is the notice, this is the date of issuance. It actually had the date on it.
Yep.
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. And section 4 in the appellant's question about where to levy or lodge concerns or comments regarding this proposed development.
Prior to, so when we were asking for comments and concerns, they did go to IP&D. Everything does go to IP&D. Tammy is the one who manages that account. Typically, if anything's for me, she forwards it off to me. I don't typically look at that inbox. So yeah, it does go to IP&D, but everything that was pertained to the SDAB, like her, like, I don't know, she doesn't influence me, I don't influence her. Just like it's no different than you guys not having anything. You guys all did your thing, right? But I can't, other than that, I can't speak on that just because it is a shared email between multiple people.
Okay.
Yep.
And maybe either you can comment on that or maybe Director Lefebvre about the additional process that council on September 8th included a new discretionary use and variance process policy. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, a policy had come into effect and approved by council, and all it really did was formalize a form that lists our parking, our infrastructure, our impact it would have on the neighborhood. So when our department sits down and determines the discretionary use and what impact it could have on the community, we've taken it and made it into a form and laid it out in a form. So you check the check boxes, and if it's good, you carry on. The only thing that's different from the process before and what we're doing now is it has a form that you would sign and check off, as opposed to a list we would use as a guide and go down, is the difference.
And then we are also doing a discretionary period. It's not mandatory, but we are changing the way we're doing things to keep the public notified. So we have a discretionary period now where we send out discretionary letters prior to approving a development permit. Kind of in the same sense, if we get comments and concerns back, we do take everything into consideration. But again, us being the development authority, we approve development based on our bylaws that are given to us. So they have to be legitimate concerns, and infrastructure, parking, characteristics of the neighborhood. So we take all of that into consideration, and then we base that on our decision. So we're giving the public the discretionary period to let us know their concerns, and then we take all of that, compile all that information, and that's what we say, okay. Then we sit down with our checklist. Does this meet it? Does this meet it? Does it not meet it? Because sometimes residents do have issues they're legitimate issues that are going to change our decision in approving something or denying it. So.
Just a question, may or may not be appropriate for everybody in this room, but has there ever been any concerns about emergency services being able to access that cul-de-sac?
I'll direct that to Director Lefebvre.
Thank you. like I said earlier, there are a few subdivisions or cul-de-sacs that are narrow. They do make it difficult for emergency vehicles to do what they have to do. Unfortunately, we were there not that long ago for a structure fire, and the vehicles were able to do what they needed to do, but it was not as convenient as a wide street, obviously. So there would, for the larger fire trucks, I believe there is an issue with mobility through there.
Mr. Malinka or Mr. Cooper?
Yeah, I have also a concern about the security. Will there be some type of security system, like if somebody's missing, that it automatically makes a call?
We just a regular security system of any regular home that you would have. We have procedures that we follow if someone is missing in the home. I wouldn't call it necessarily a security system, but we have more procedures if a child somehow is missing. We do have procedures that we follow. But in security, other than just your regular home, of my own home, that I might have security. I mean, cameras, we have cameras on property, just at the exterior of the home, like any private home that you would have. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay.
Mr. Cooper, did you have any questions? Okay, I want to move on to questions about the procedural, some of the questions that were raised about the procedural accuracy and fairness. You had mentioned about the use of the same email. Can you identify, has that ever been an issue? The IPD at vegreville.com, is that an overarching email? And what concerns and who is directed to that email?
So Tammy, the SDAB clerk, and the planning and development assistant, she manages that email. Typically, if anything comes in for myself, the infrastructure coordinator, or Dale, she just directs it to where it needs to go. That's just the general email that's on our business cards, on the website, for anything, basically planning and development, infrastructure planning and development.
Okay, and I want to direct this to the appellant then. Is your concern that you believe that there should be a separate email?
Yeah, like as per my response, like the SDAB should be a totally separate body from the development authority email, which a reasonable person would argue that infrastructure planning and development, that is the development authority's email. That's the same email address that is you submit development permit applications to. So having a separate email specific for the SDAB clerk or whatever that might be, separate from the development authority, seems pretty reasonable.
Okay, yeah, and actually just to insert ourselves here, just so that everybody's completely clear, this group here is independent from anything that is presented today. So none of us have any bias. You had the opportunity to be able to declare any concern about the members of the public or myself sitting here as the chair. But the authority that's given to us by the province is to determine land usage. And understanding better your concerns is ultimately what we're trying to do. So I want to make it clear to the public that is potentially listening or in the room that none of us on this table have any bias.
Another thing too, like have taken the training, the SDAB training before in smaller municipalities, most times the clerk is in the same office. And that's part of it when you're in a small community. And then same with the timeline, 30 minutes. And thank you for letting us go a little bit longer and reviewing it a little bit more. It is hard being in such a small community where everybody talks. So trying to keep it, I know that Tammy did an awesome job trying to keep it very, very just to like herself. And being in such a small office in a small community, talk happens, and trying to keep that, mitigating that was, I have to give her props for that.
Yeah, and just, sorry, as chair, I'll just draw attention to the fact that it is unusual. This is the first time sat on this board actually before I was on council, since I think the first time I sat on a appeal board hearing was in 2007. So off and on, we've had periodic concerns about fences. It's usually a little bit more simple, often emotionally charged, because of course it deals with people's property, but in general, the process has been to receive the package upon arrival. So we've never had the information released on social media, and we've never had it taped. So this is new for us. Other jurisdictions, other municipalities do that, and we are doing that for the sake of transparency, to make sure that everybody's aware that, of course, there's nothing that's hidden. This is a public document talking about land usage, and we want to make sure that the public feels comfortable that we're doing this as transparently as possible. Sorry, you had a question?
Thank you. No, I just wanted to comment and say that we aren't digging in these documents to purposefully find flaws, but as the affected landowner and going through this process, also a first for ourselves, there were many times where we just had a level of discomfort. And so from the very beginning, finding out the hard way that the application was already approved. Of course, we know IPD went through by following the land use bylaw, but which we advocated to have changed as a totally separate entity, and we were successful in that. And we're happy and proud of that, because that means that the rest of the community, when these things fall on IPD's desk, they're going to have an opportunity to voice their concerns before the application is approved. And so I just want to say that we aren't going through to purposely find things, but it was uncomfortable to send our documents for the SDAB hearing, knowing that it was going to them when it essentially is, us versus IPD, and we were only going to have 30 minutes to prepare. So it felt as though if we're sending it to them, then you could perhaps assume that they're having an advantage of being able to prepare, because they're the ones receiving our documentation. So it was once we had that level of discomfort and we thought, why is that? And then we realized it's going to the same place. So anything that we've stated as far as procedural fairness, we did our due diligence by reading the policies, reading the MGA. We've cited all of the references, and we so appreciate that the town and the IPD department have updated and changed their policies and their letter forms to accurately, provide the necessary information. And in our procedural error, the portion of our submission, those things are mandated by the MGA, and they weren't there. So again, when we got this letter, the notice of decision, which even given our experience in this, we were very confused because of the last paragraph stating that, if you have any questions or concerns regarding the development, notify us here. And so those rules are in place for a reason, to mitigate any of those causes of confusion. And so that's why we wanted to bring all of those things up and just let everyone know that we had to do a lot of work in this, making sure that all of the affected landowners were notified. And the last thing I wanted to comment on was the map that we provided, and just to Kayla's, I think you asked the question of where we drew our line for that 60 meters. We did have a private meeting with planning and development where we were very forthcoming and brought forward our concerns about these things. So they were very aware that we had acknowledged a discrepancy in what they considered 60 meters and what our map showed 60 meters. We went off the property line, which we thought made perfect sense. It was very standard. So to find out that they went from the middle was surprising to us, but the land use bylaw also states that the IPD department has to notify everyone within 60 meters or anyone else who they determine to be an affected landowner. So considering that our back alley is a grass walkway, goes directly to a playground, there's multiple other properties there that back onto that. We get a lot of foot traffic there of people going back and forth. It seems like a proactive decision, in our opinion, that you would notify everyone within 60 meters from the property line, as well as those at the end of our cul-de-sac, because they're the ones also, if there is increased traffic, they're going to experience that as well. So I just wanted to clarify the 60-meter confusion there. And I guess that's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, just to clarify, there might be some difference in processes between different municipalities, for example, in the experience of measuring from the center of property and determining who would be affected. I guess the one thing that I want to be completely clear on is the preparation of the material in no way determines the outcome of this decision of this body. They're not the decision makers. They prepare the material, and the process already, it sounds like, is improving in terms of veracity and tightening up some of the language and ensuring it's clear and open so that people understand. Just to be clear about the importance of openness at the same time respecting privacy. I used the example of fences before. It's been the practice that those that are sitting on the appeal board would never know anything about a decision that we're going to be adjudicating about prior to the hearing, so that people would not be driving out and taking a look at the property and making their determination based on their own eyes. It would be based on land use bylaw prescription, not potentially the people that own the property or any personal bias. So that's been the practice, and that is fairly clearly laid out in the Land and Property Rights Tribunal, which is the provincial body that dictates and moderates all of the knowledge that we would use here at a municipality. So I don't have any more questions. Do any of the other? Yes, please.
Thanks, Tanine. Just to add to that, this is the second one I've been on, and just to put you at ease, both of these, we were never informed any of the information until we showed up. In this particular case, there was a preliminary hearing to set a new date. At that preliminary hearing, nothing, I have no idea what was going on, just to set a new date. So there was no previous information transferred back and forth. We had no idea what was going on. We couldn't make any preconceived ideas or preconceived decisions. So hopefully that helps you.
Okay, I'll just ask one more time. Are there any other questions of the board that you require in the next process of making a decision? Okay, at this point then in the hearing, we will have both the appellant and the applicant's rebuttal. And so I will start off with the Jagolic family.
Thank you. We just want to be very clear that our appeal does not come from a place of discrimination or a lack of understanding. Our concerns are based on the definition of a group home and the fact that a reasonable person could assume that the residents there could cause an inherent risk to our neighborhood. I appreciate the clarification from nurturers. However, one comment that I struggle with is that on the development permit application, it says children and youth from 0 to 18 years of age, especially those that have gone through traumatic experiences. So medical needs are very different than needs that have arisen through no fault of their own from experiencing traumatic things. Obviously, a child with diabetes poses no risk to the community. And I feel as though once the discretionary use is approved, then as someone else had said, it does open the door, because then they have to reapply and they could now want adults in there. And once the home is now a group home, I feel as though it is easier for that use to continually change. And so we have to understand that it's not just the current terms of the development permit that we have to consider. It could be future residences as well. 60-meter notification, I touched on that already. Do you have anything to say?
I guess just to add, the conditional approval of the town's development permit stated nothing about the maximum number of children other than what is that as described in the group home definition of no more than 7. So when they mentioned 4, that's not a condition of approval. So if they want to have 5, 6, do they have to reapply? Or what's the process for that?
So the condition, the applicant must comply with all provisions of the Vegreville land use bylaw. It's been determined that it is just a group home, which as per our definitions, it's maximum 7 residents in the house.
Okay, however, in multiple different documents, and it was stated today many times that the development permit application was only for 4. It said that in many informal documents, not in the formal ones. So it is not stated as a condition that they are capped at 4 residents. It was only in the informal, I believe it was the IPD development's conclusion letter that it specified that.
Just like my breakdown there in the graph, is that what you're talking about in my report?
I'll ask all speakers to address, please address through the chair. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Am I good? Okay. So the application is for 7 or less individuals, which meets regulations of a group home.
So I'm going to ask a question right now, just to go back to the concern of the Jagolics about the need for reapplication. So if the usage should change from what is in the application as submitted, would it require a complete renewal of approval in the process?
Yeah, so we made it a condition on the development permit. The approved group home, which as per our definitions will house no more than 7 individuals, will solely provide services to children under the age of 18 as per the proposed use indicated on the development permit application. If you wish to change due to the demographics of the occupancy, a new development permit application will need to be submitted to infrastructure planning and development for review. So that's a condition on their development permit.
Yes, we fully understand that the land use bylaw states that a group home can have no more than 7 residents. But in multiple forms of documentation here, they say that they're only going to have 4. So IPD has the ability to put the condition on that they only can have 4, because our discussions here today would drastically change if we're going from 4 residents to 7. All of the questions I feel like would have been further directed to, okay, now we're going from 2 staff members. If they have 7 children, now they're going to have more, correct? So that condition specifically of capping the residents at 4 is not stated. However, we understand as well that if the demographic changes from 0 to 18, if they do want adults in there, they would have to reapply. But the number of children is not specified as a condition. Therefore, they could move 7 children in 1 month after having the approved application.
Okay. Is there anything else that you'd like to say as part of your rebuttal? Okay, thank you. I'll move to the applicant then. Carol?
Yes, thank you. I would start with addressing the number of kids. First of all, we have our own process as well with our own licensing and provincial requirements. If we are licensed for our home for 4, that's what we have to keep. And so I can assure you that we would not be even attempting to go over 4, for the simple reason that it's not best practice to have kids that have different needs, to have more than 4 kids. And even our own standards that we are accredited by also determine that. So it's not just about the city and what we are the development of permit has allowed us, but it's also about our own licensing requirements. We can actually, the licensing guidelines can never license for more than 5, I believe. But for us, it wouldn't be, and that house in particular wouldn't be able to accommodate more than that. So in that regard, I can assure that we have no intentions of going over 4. It just would be for that very reason of staffing and people, too many people coming in and out. So that would not be, for us, it's not even crossed our minds to go over 4. Even if we wanted to, we wouldn't be able to because of our provincial licensing that we are required to follow. So in that regard, I just want to emphasize that it would not be something that we are going over. Yes, I do think that we do appreciate the opportunity to be here and be heard. And I think somebody else had mentioned earlier about it's not so much about this group home, but it's about the opening of, it opens up a door for other facilities to, to be opened up or what have you. And in as much as we might not have an influence in that or not, for us, I would just emphasize that we are simply looking for a home for our children. That is simply what we are looking to have. And we are more than qualified to be able to support the kids that we are caring for. And in regards to the children and youth that have experienced trauma, when we talk about trauma, it's very, grief and loss is trauma. Having gone through the fires, it's trauma. Losing your parents to cancer, it's trauma. Being abused or neglected, not having food to eat, is trauma. Having a parent incarcerated, it's trauma. So when we say that we are caring for kids that have experienced trauma, these are all traumatic events that they've experienced. And yes, I use the example of a young girl that is diabetic, but she also has trauma. She's losing her home. She's losing her parents. She's not having a home to be. So that is traumatic. So, and she just happens to also be diabetic. So would she be qualified as a young person that has had trauma? Absolutely. But does that mean that, her needs of that trauma or being diabetic, it's less than or more than or any of that? No. For us, trauma it varies. Today, it could be a young girl that is diabetic but has gone through grief and loss. That's a traumatic event for her life. Tomorrow, it could be another child that might not be diabetic, but they've simply lost all their relatives. They have no one else to care for them. That is traumatic. But in the same way, it could be someone that is simply have experienced a household where they were abused physically, emotionally, mentally, sexually, socially. That is traumatic. And so when we define the kids that are under 18 that we're caring for that have experienced trauma, it is all of those experiences that are traumatic that they've experienced. But it does not mean that with all those experiences that they've experienced, they're gonna end up being so disruptive to the community or not destructive. I could have my own kids that I can speak of that, I've moved from one place to another. For them, that was traumatic because they left a place that they knew to be a home to come into a different place. So that's traumatic. So yes, traditionally, typically kids in care that are coming into accessing group homes are generally kids that are defined as to having extreme high-risk behaviors. That is, so we are going to an extreme of thinking about kids in care that we're caring for, all these kids that are gonna be so high risk. But what we can say is that they all experience trauma and varying degrees of trauma. From simply, even the young person who is diabetic, it's traumatic for her to feel like she has to be monitoring her sugar levels and all of that. That is traumatic. Those are the kids that we're caring for. So we don't, we have standards that guides our practice. We have requirement and licensing requirements that guides our staffing levels, that guides our experience, that guides who we are hiring, who is coming in. We have guidelines, so we are not just making up things that as we go, but we are more than qualified, and we have processes and procedures that we are held to, that we have to abide by. And those processes includes assessing for suitability to be within a community setting. It involves assessing for risk within a community setting. It assesses for everything that we can think of. We do have processes for that. That's not just us determining that process, but our accreditation standards, our licensing standards, our provisional policy for Child and Services Act, all of those guides how we manage and support the children. I don't know if at this point I have the ability to see, I don't know if my colleagues would wanna, if they feel that I have left out something, I don't know if that is allowed to invite
I'll
them
allow
to
that.
speak to.
Yep.
Okay. Joseph, did you wanna come and speak to me?
Yeah, if you have something else that you'd like to include in the rebuttal? Will that pick up on the recording? We'll need you on the microphone, I'm sorry. We can hear you fine, but it's just the recording won't be able to. Thank you very much, Davin.
Okay. So I just want to thank everybody here. It's, like I said, this is not one of those businesses maybe from somewhere from Edmonton. They just want to come and spoil our community or our neighborhood. That's not what we want to do. It is not just a business for us. It's a passion. If left for us, if it is pure business that we're doing, I don't think we're going to choose Vegreville as our number one. I just have to be, that's to be truthful in that. But like I said, this is very close to us. Nurtures is a very young organization, but very strong background, very strong attachment to what we do. Like she said, I know one of the concern that the last person she mentioned was about, how are we going to move? Are you sure they're not going to move from 4 kids to 7 kids and stuff like that? No. What we do is actually regulated by the province. And what we do is also accredited by the Canadian Accreditation Council. What we do is licensed by the province of Alberta. So there's no way we're just going to, kind of pull something out of our hat and begin to do it. We are monitored closely. The needs of these children, so I think we are moving from a business perspective. When we started this, we thought it was going to be a business, but actually it's growing into something that is going to be beyond us in terms of what we're doing. Like I said, it is passion that is driving us, not just what we know as business, if it's profit. I want to reassure the appellants that one of the things that we realize moving forward is that their fears are not actually supposed to be there in the first place, because they wouldn't even know whether Nurture is operating or not. Let me give you an instance what we do. In one of our facilities is a very robust 5-bedroom house in Edmonton. It's bungalow in a very choice neighborhood. We don't normally, one of our, we don't normally get our facilities in a anyhow neighborhood. Let me just use that word. So all our facilities are in a very family-oriented, quiet neighborhood. And that's why people, even the agencies that we work with, once they come, the first time they come, the impression is like, are you guys really doing business or not? Because I don't know how you guys are paying for that. But where I'm going is this. In one of our facility, we're licensed for 5 kids, and it's a 5 solid bedroom, well furnished, everything in there. But ask me how many kids we have there. 1. Do we have offers like, agencies calling us to take kids? Yes. But we had a kid there for a couple of months. And was like, you are getting these agencies asking you, oh, you guys have beds? We say, yes, we have beds. Then they give us the presenting needs of these kids. They want us to, to support. And we say, no. No first month, no second month. Yes, we are running. How can you run a facility like that? That is the kind of things we do. So we don't just do anything anyhow, because we know that these kids, they need stability. And one thing we try to do is we are very intentional about everything. We don't want to re-traumatize the kids that are sent to us. And that is one thing that separates us from the pack. You might think you're supporting a child or you're taking care of a child, not knowing that you're just kind of traumatizing the child in the whole process. Because if I bring in 4 kids into a home, 5 kids, 6 kids, that is already a madhouse. It's not going to happen with nurtures. So we had to support 1 kid in that 5-bed facility for months until this kid was, moved to another secure facility. Business-wise, that is not a good decision. There's nothing that stops us from saying, okay, let them bring in the other kids. But we decided that no, these other kids, why are we bringing them? Are we bringing them in just there for the money or to help them? So we first and foremost look at the kids and look at what help we're going to give to the kids. The best time that we celebrate in nurtures is when a child moves from our facility back home. We've had a couple of them. We have one girl that in June, she turned 18. She was with us for two years. And she went back to Saskatoon to reconnect with family. We are still in touch up to today. She calls me about, I think in September or so, I sent her $100 that she used to buy her cat, first pet, because I promised her that. So that is the kind of things we are building. We're not building, it's not just your standard business. Not just it's not your standard business organization, because we are really attached to what we do. And that is what makes the difference. So I want to reassure the appellants that, yes, your concerns are genuine. I would, do what you're doing if I've not gone through what I've gone through with, what I'm doing. I will do even more than what you're doing. I will challenge it. I will be concerned about my own children, the neighborhood and things like that. But just to reassure you, that is not what you're going to see. And there's no way to prove that than when, everything is up and running. So I just want to thank everybody that granted us this opportunity. And, it's awesome having you guys hearing from everybody, every side, and also seeing the concerns of the neighborhood, the appellants, and everybody. And I know that the board will make their decision based on what the policies and the town's code bylaws says. Thank you, and God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Joseph. So I'll thank everyone for gathering today. It's been, in summary, probably the longest collection of appeals all together in one. So we've spent an interesting afternoon together. And I appreciate all of you for spending your time with us. I wanted to make sure that everybody had the time and space to be able to express their concerns, and so that the appeal board had the opportunity to be able to hear fulsome discussion. What happens now, what we will do is we will make a motion to go in camera, which means we will go into closed session. That means we will excuse those in the gallery, and it will be the appeal board having discussion and deliberation on all of the information that we heard from the appellant, the applicant, and the subdivision authority. We will have that discussion in closed session. What will happen then is the decision will be disclosed within 15 days. We will direct the staff at the town of Vegreville, the subdivision authority, so that will be Kayla McCutcheon, as well as Tammy McLean, as part of that department, to notify the appellant. And I think in this instance, this video will be posted publicly, and the notice will be made in a future meeting. Yes. So that anybody that is here that won't be receiving the direct notification of the decision will be able to find out the decision that was made. So I will take now a motion to go into camera, which is closed session. Mr. Cooper has made that motion. All those in favor? And that is carried. So we will deliberate after you are all exited. And again, thank you very much for your time and your care in appealing and applying. Thank you so much. And I will adjourn at this time at 4:12.